Okay, we certainly allowed enough time for quite a few people to get joined into this session, and we are running several sessions here, so we want to get started in an effort to get through the content that we had planned for today's discussion. The topic of today's discussion is the new feature that was rolled out in Google Drive called Team Drives. So through this discussion, it's going to be a high-level overview of what's included in Team Drives and hopefully setting you up for success to explore different avenues to learn on your own, and then also educate your end users to use Team Drives to its fullest potential. I will be your presenter for today, familiar with many of you on the line, but for any of you that are not familiar with me, my name is Tina Mowen, the Customer Success Manager at Sweetbriar. Okay, so the agenda that we're going to be looking at today, pretty simple: the who, the what, where, how, and some cool stuff. So we're going to be talking about first who can use Team Drives, because several announcements have gone out, but just want to clarify who Team Drives is available to, because it actually already is live. Then we're going to dive into an intro and, more importantly, a demo of Team Drives, so you can learn to use these tools right out of the gate. Also, we'll highlight where and how to turn on Team Drives in your admin console, but also how to restrict Team Drives and some best practices for turning on Team Drives with your domain. And then looking at the how, want to touch on some user adoption pieces using the Google G Suite Learning Center, and then also some free tools that you can add to your domain, actually for the entire G Suite platform, but more specifically some tailored videos and guided tours for Team Drives. And then we'll wrap up our discussion with some cool stuff, more importantly, some additional announcements that you may have missed that includes Google Vault for Google Drive Now, as well as some early adopter programs. Throughout the presentation, don't be shy with any questions. I encourage you to enter them into the chat window as we go through the presentation, and we can circle back on those questions at the end of our presentation. It'll take about a half an hour to go through, so we won't take up the full hour. And then we'll circle back at the end of our presentation to follow up on any questions that you may have. Okay, so first let's take a look at who can use Team Drive. So just to clarify, now there are 3 different G Suite SKUs: G Suite Business, G Suite Basic, and also G Suite Enterprise. So for clarification purposes, G Suite Business and G Suite Enterprise automatically have Team Drives. If you don't have G Suite Business or G Suite Enterprise, they do have some potential upgrade incentives right now. So if you're on the G Suite Basic platform, you can certainly reach out, either just info@Sweetbriar, or if you have a preferred contact, or you can just reach out to the customer success team, customersuccess@sweetbriar.com. We'd be happy to speak through any of the options for you. However, majority of our customers are on G Suite Business and G Suite Enterprise, so do know that Team Drives are immediately available to you and you can start using them. So that's what we're going to take a look at now. So just a brief intro on understanding the difference between what you had in My Drive and general Google Drive and what Team Drives brings to the table, and then we'll look at a demo of what Team Drives looks like. Okay, so Team Drives in a snapshot is a collectively owned shared space for teams. So with Google Drive and the My Drive location in the past, these were very user-centric approaches to managing your files and folders. What I mean by that is a particular user or user account was tied to a specific file or folder. They were the owner of that file or folder. They could choose who it was shared with. They had the ability to delete that. And there were some requests then to have a team-centric approach to storing and managing files. So the answer to that then is Team Drives, which is a team or group-centric approach where files are owned collectively. So now files are no longer owned by specific individuals or a specific Google account. They're owned by the group. So that means they don't get lost if a user leaves. So if a user leaves your organization, you will not have to transfer ownership of files because they will remain in that specific team drive. Also, sharing permissions are simple to manage. So as you can see here, all team members see the same files, and a new edit access role prevents team members from deleting files. So there is only one particular role that's granted through permissions that will allow a subset of users in team drives the ability to delete. So that would be more of like an admin. What some of our customers have been doing is adding either like a department head or a project manager or project team lead as that admin overhead for some of these team drives. This also allows then for easy onboarding of new team members because new team members automatically see their team's content. So instead of adding new team members to files and folders that might be relevant to them, you can simply add them to a team drive and they get everything pushed out to them. More so, if you are using Google Groups within your environment, not to be confused with organizational units, but Google Groups. If you're familiar with sharing files and folders with Google Groups, you can share team drives the same way. So through the onboarding process, if you add somebody to a Google group, they will get all of the team drives that have been associated with that particular Google group. So it makes the onboarding process a little bit easier. So those are three key takeaways for team drives, but more so now we're going to take a peek at what all of this looks like. So as a quick recap, what I was speaking about on the key differences between my drive and team drives is that my drives were a user-centric approach. Remember, all of those files and folders are owned by a particular individual or a particular account on your G Suite environment. So now team drives are going to be that group-centric approach. So all files and folders that are stored within these team drives that I have just listed on my screen here will be owned by that group. And only a subset of users, so those that are granted full access to the team drives, have the ability to delete and can manage the members within those team drives. For visibility, your end users will see this new team drives location just directly under my drive. And much like the hierarchy structure that you used to in the past, you can access the different team drives that you have access to. Only ones that you have access to will be visible on the left side navigation. So you can see I have access to 4 different team drives. It might be view access, comment, edit access. You're familiar with the access permissions. I'm going to open up now one of these team drives to show you that the aesthetics change a bit in the background here. So you can see the aesthetics changed at the top just to easily recognize for your end users when you're working in team drives as opposed to my drive. It just makes it very simple to follow along. Now I am an admin, or I have full access of this marketing team drive. So then that gives me ability to add members. So adding members to team drives is very similar to what you've done in the past with adding individuals or groups to files and folders. You can add based off of individuals, or you can do groups. So if I wanted to add the whole training team, so remember I said that you can share with entire Google groups as well. The access permissions are similar, but we have one added layer if you recall. So we still have view access, comment, edit access, but the added layer of access permissions is called full access. This will grant that individual the ability to manage which members are part of that team drive and which files can be deleted, most importantly. So that way all the content remains in one place. You'll also notice then when I'm sharing either a team drive or contents within team drive, the sharing window looks a little different as well. This will just allow you to once again visually recognize when you're working within a team drive as opposed to the general My Drive. Okay, so I'm going to open up just a document within Team Drives now. So as you can see, you still have all the same access like you could do in My Drive. You can store Google documents, you can store other file types. So, image files, PDF files, Microsoft files, Gerber files, CAD files. You can still stick those in Team Drives, just like you could with the regular My Drive. The difference with accessing these documents is within the sharing permissions again. So with individual files in team drives, you can still share them externally out of that team drive. Very similar to what you would get with a shared workspace or a shared drive on a on-site file server. You can still have the ability to send these files elsewhere. So if I wanted to share this with somebody else, I could just share this with an individual colleague that doesn't have access to the entire team drive, but just needs this one file. I can send that out. And once more, you have the same permissions, so edit, comment, or view access. So I will send that out. What you cannot do, however, is share entire folders that are a part of a team drive. So you will notice that once I selected a folder within Team Drive, the sharing permission is disabled. Even if I right-click, the sharing once again is disabled, because the idea is if you're trying to share groups of files or whole folder structures, you can just create them in a Team Drive location. So just to recap, you can still share with individuals and groups on the individual files, but you don't share on the folder structures. This is just to keep the integrity of all the files that you have within the team drives, just within that specific group. Okay, so that is introduction and hopefully some learned new pieces for you on team drives. I want to take a moment now just to explore some of the additional back-end pieces in the admin console as well. And I did see we had a question come in, so just give me one moment. Great question. So the question that came in, as a Google administrator, you can move Drive files from one user to another. Can this be moved to a team drive? So as a Google administrator, you will be able to move files or folders into team drives. You can do that manual process here, so you can see that I can just simply drag and drop. It will technically migrate it though to that team drive location. Now you can see it's just the drag and drop. What you do need to keep in mind though, even though you are a Google administrator, you will need at least view access for those files and folders to drag them into team drives. Now, if you are looking to do more of a bulk migration, I guess, so to speak, into team drives, we can certainly recommend some tools for you. One that comes to mind is called AppBridge. It's the Google recommended tool, and that's certainly a discussion we'd be happy to have with you offline. But excellent question, though. Okay, so as promised, I wanted to speak about some of the backend pieces in the admin console, how to turn on team drives and how to restrict team drives as well, and what the access permissions for team drives looks like within the admin console. So first, let's take a look at turning on team drives. We'll send these instructions over afterwards, so don't feel that you have to memorize these right now. But just to quickly walk through the process, it will be in your admin console. And under your G Suite location, just locate Drive and Docs, and then you can make sure Drive is turned on for your organization, and it will be under the general sharing settings. So I'm just going to access my admin console. Following those steps, and as I pointed out, just under the general apps, you can access your Drive and Docs application, and you'll find Team Drives under the sharing settings. So you'll notice here is where you have the ability to prevent users from creating team drives. What I also like to point out is you can set this for different organizational units that you have within your environment. So if I wanted to restrict finance from creating team drives, I can just restrict those particular individuals. What we have been recommending for our customers that want to play with team drives, so to speak, maybe just on the IT team, or you just want to work with a particular team with creating team drives, you can restrict for everyone in your organization, except for just a select few to easily create and work with those team drives. Be sure to save the changes, and just a point of reference, keep in mind that it can take up to 24 hours for that to push through your domain. Okay, the other piece then, in that same location, so if you recall, we were just under the settings for Google Drive, just in the admin console. You will notice, in case you missed that, there is a new option in here to manage team drives. So as the system administrator, or if you're in charge of the IT department, whichever your role is, if you have super admin access to the G Suite environment, you can access all of the team drives that are created, whether they were created by an admin, whether it was created by a general end user. You can access all of the team drives. You can see who has access to which team drives and what access they have. You can change those access permissions, and more so, you can add or delete members from those team drives. So this is helpful once more through the onboarding process or deprovisioning of accounts. Maybe you're going to keep an account around, or you're recycling accounts. Just on the back end, you can access all of these team drive locations and change the member permissions. Okay, so let's take a moment now to talk about user adoption. With the user adoption pieces, there's two specific tools that I like to reference. Both are free tools. One is run by Google. The other was recently acquired by Google. We have been sharing this with most of our customers to the best of our ability, but just another avenue to make you aware of the tools that are available to you. So first is the G Suite or Google Apps Learning Center. So just the G Suite Learning Center. Specifically in here, you can learn by product. So we'll get to Google Drive, and this will give you a getting started guide with Team Drive. So how to set up, how to create, how to add members. This gives you a great table of the different access roles and what can be done. And then working with the team drives and organizing. So I'm just going to copy this link and send this in the chat window just for everyone to easily access. It's a great cheat sheet, and many of our customers tend to just pick out certain pieces if you're going to perform some change management just for your end user population. Now, the other tool that I'm quite fond of is called G Suite Training. Perhaps not the most creative name in the world, but it is highly effective. So the G Suite Training is an in-app training tool that just lays on top of the G Suite interface. So after it is installed and added to your domain, it will live in the top right corner as this question mark. Your end users have the ability to watch short videos on any topics that they need assistance with. They have added short videos for team drives, so you can see there's a handful here. What are team drives, how you can create team drives, how to rename, change the theme, all the key items that you would want to learn in team drives. This is a great addition to use if you're looking to increase user adoption, if you do plan to use those team drive tools. Once more, let me send this link in the chat window to make it a little easier for you. If you haven't added G Suite training to your domain yet, this walks you through getting the extensions, how to view the lessons. And for anybody that is a Google administrator on the call today, you can see that you can have reports on what videos are being watched, and you can launch particular videos to your domain. So what I would recommend is if you are going to utilize the Team Drives tool, you can launch key videos just within the platform and then just get reporting on who's watching those videos. Okay, so we're going to wrap up our discussion then with some cool stuff, so to speak. Just in case you missed it, some additional announcements that have come out, especially for our G Suite Business and G Suite Enterprise customers, because these are tools that are immediately available to you. The first is Vault for Google Drive. In case you missed this announcement, Google Vault is now included for Google Drive. It's actually included now for Google Groups as well. So for those of you that are using service accounts, this will have that archiving and e-discovery for those service accounts and Google Drive. This includes team drives in Google Vault as well, so certainly worth mentioning on today's call. But one point that we've been trying to get across for all of our customers is that while it's available to you, you'll want to go into Vault and set your retention policies. You can always set it to default to keep everything indefinitely, but make sure you just go in and turn it on. So as a reminder, this just allows you to preserve the company data through retention policies, certainly another opportunity to evaluate what your retention policies are, and then keep the data that you need and dispose of the data that you don't want with the specific retention policies or compliance needs that you have. And you can also preserve legal or case specific data through legal holds. So just as a reminder, outside of just general searches in Google Vault, you can place legal holds. And this applies now to Google Drive data, not just Gmail. And the last piece that I wanted to speak about on our discussion today, for anybody that's interested, and if you have missed it, is the Drive File Stream Early Adopter Program. If you're not sure that you've seen this in the past, I would encourage you just checking out on Google Cloud Connect, or if that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, you can always just reach out to me individually or just anyone at Sweetbriar, and we can point you in the right direction to get signed up for early adopter programs. Google Drive File Stream is a great recommendation, especially if you do plan on utilizing team drives, because that is a way that you'll be able to pick and choose syncing team drives locally on your computers. So right now, today, you have the local Drive Sync client, but the Drive File Stream is in the early adopter program and set to potentially replace that or really replace that in the future. So that will allow you then to quickly stream files to your computer. You stream only the ones you need directly from the cloud right when you need them. So we have been getting some positive reports that it is pretty bandwidth friendly. And then all your work, barely any disk space. So spend less time waiting for your files to sync. So once again, bandwidth friendly. And then you can make files available offline anytime or later. So you can pick and choose what you want available offline. And this gives you more granular permissions on choosing what you want to sync locally. So what you have today with the Google Drive Sync client, you can sync individual folders, but not individual files. So Google Drive File Stream will give you more of those granular permissions. Okay, that wraps up our discussion for today. So we hit time almost right on the dot here. We wanted to be sure to leave time for any questions that you may have. Feel free to enter questions either into the chat box. Otherwise, we did mute everyone by default just coming into this discussion today, but feel free to unmute yourself at will and ask any questions that you may have.